the message is being taken care of, so it's still in the queue, and you can deal with it later.
Right, it's not until it gets down to here that we've actually updated the cargo, right?
Right.
And once again, this is transactional.
Exactly. And this is weird, again, because here you have these, again, uses this events thing to publish stuff. And you probably would like to do that in the aggregate itself, in cargo. Would probably, that's where one put this.
Hey guys, can I interrupt you for just a few minutes to just explain what you're working on here?
Sure. So in just under 3 weeks' time, I'll be presenting at the DDD Exchange in London on what I've been learning as I've been porting the sample application from Java to Ruby, and Patrik's helping me understand some of the design decisions that were made with the original Java port, or the original Java implementation, and walking me through that so I can understand what are the design considerations when I come across to Ruby and try and implement that. And so we're going through the asynchronous updating of when a new handling event is inserted in, then what do we do with the cargo and what's the mechanism for that?
So Patrik, I know you were involved in the original work on the DDD Sample App several years ago, as I was, and Peter Bachman. And I was wondering if you could talk just a little about which aspects of the app do you think are going to change the most as it gets updated to the 2013 way of doing things and incorporating the way of thought.
Yeah, sure. I think at first I think it actually did age quite gracefully. You know, a lot of the things are still valid and it's still looking okay. Of course, the technology stack is old and could use an upgrade. But apart from that, I think the most interesting things that the DDD community has learned, and the way that we have kind of shifted our way of looking at a few things, are how connected aggregates are, that we really try to separate them more. We do not have direct references from value objects to the root of another aggregate. Instead, we reference them by identity. And by doing that, which is not how it's done in the sample app, by doing that you could, for instance, make it very natural to persist these things in a document database or something like that.
Right.
That makes it a very natural thing to do. So that's one thing that I hope that Paul could clarify in his port.
Yeah, because the interesting thing is I'm using MongoDB as a document database, and the first thing I came up against was the way that the Java implementation handles those types of references, and it was a point of friction right away, is how do I persist this in Mongo, given the way it's implemented in Java. So using an aggregate-oriented database, I came up against that as one of the very first things. Was it became clear that this was a point of tension that we would have to work out. So the second thing.
So that is one thing. Another thing is surrounding how we emit and consume events. Where do we emit these? How do we consume them? You know, it's a very simple thing to say that, well, if you update this aggregate, these other aggregates has to be updated, you know, asynchronously. But actually doing that and finding a good mechanism that is durable and reliable to do that isn't necessarily as simple as saying it. And I think there's some things that we did right, some things that we have learned these last few years that would make things a little bit different.